Hello, I'm Arik Korman, CEO at League of Education Voters and the parent of a high school junior of the global majority in the public school system who is accessing special education services. I advocate because of my son, so that every student can get what they need, when they need it, and how they need it. Today's webinar features closed captions. In order to access captioning, just click on the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen. Spanish interpretation is also available. To access this webinar in Spanish, in your webinar controls at the bottom of your screen, click Interpretation, which is the icon that looks like a globe, and then click Spanish. And if you want to hear only Spanish without the original English in the background, click Mute Original Audio. Special thanks to Alicia Linera, who is our interpreter. If you have any technical issues, feel free to use the chat function, which I will monitor throughout the webinar. In case you're not familiar with us, League of Education Voters is a statewide nonprofit that works with families, educators, and leaders to create learning environments where every Washington student feels safe, supported, and a positive sense of belonging so that they can achieve academically and access the life they choose. Our website is educationvoters.org. We believe that education is a tool for justice. One of the systems that perpetuate racial and disability injustice experienced by global majority communities is our schools. We believe every child deserves an excellent public education that provides equitable opportunities for success. In order to achieve this, we must pursue radical change in our school systems for equity, justice, and liberation. We must build schools and systems that honor the humanity of every student. Welcome to our free online webinar series, Lunchtime Webinars. We started this series 12 years ago to share information and build knowledge on important and timely issues. Today's webinar is about the importance of arts education. Often overlooked, the arts are a vital part of the education curriculum. However, the opportunity to engage in a diverse array of arts is something that only a portion of students in Washington state can access. Arts education is also an opportunity for community members and organizations to partner with schools. In today's webinar, we will spotlight how community partners and organizations are partnering with districts to bring arts education to students. Students from across Washington state will share how arts education has benefited them. Now, I would like our panelists to introduce yourselves, starting with Caden. Caden, feel free to popcorn to whoever you'd like to go next.
Well, hi, my name is Caden Young. I am a sophomore here at Ridgeline High School. I am a part of the ASB team of Spirit Coordinator. I am a volunteer outside of my school with church, with youth group. I'm also a very outgoing person and just likes to have fun. Yeah. Austin, you can go next.
Thanks, Kaden. Hi, everybody. My name is Austin Sargent, and I'm reporting live from Seattle, Washington. I grew up as a young artist. I went to school for art in my undergraduate degree, and art is what moved me from Georgia to the Seattle area. Now I am the director of operations for a youth public speaking nonprofit called Speak with Purpose that works in Seattle public schools and Renton public schools to teach public speaking, writing skills, and performance skills to enhance our own scholars' understanding of their place in the world. Rosie, how about you next?
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'm coming from Yakima, Washington here. I wear a lot of hats, but I'm an art educator at Heritage University, located in Toppenish, Washington. I'm also a working artist, a tattoo artist. I'm part of a collective group that advocates for artists of color in Central Washington. So I do a little bit of everything. I'm all over the place, but I truly believe in arts and education in the arts. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks. Let's see, Miranda.
Yeah, hi. My name's Miranda Lee Hine. My pronouns are she, her. I am a lifelong arts educator and advocate based in Spokane, but raised in Moses Lake. So our Central Washington and rural schools have a really special place in my heart as well. I taught English language arts and dance as an art form in public schools for 15 years. I also coached and evaluated teaching candidates through Eastern Washington University for many years. And now I serve as the executive director for Arts Ed Washington, where my main focus is on improving access so that all Washington students can experience the benefits of a quality arts education. And then let's see, did Elias already go? Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name's Elias. I go to Meadowdale High School in Linwood, Washington, and I'm a part of our ASB as well as a part of our theater program where I'm taking this meeting from, actually. And we're working towards our show, and I do technical theater.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you all being here. To begin today's LEVinar, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral and unceded traditional lands of the 29 federally recognized and non-federally recognized tribes in Washington state, including the Chehalis, Chinook, Colville, Cowlitz, Duwamish, Hoh, Jamestown Sklallam, Kalispel, Lower Elwha Clallam, Lummi, Makah, Muckleshoot, Nisqually, Nooksack, Port Gamble Sklallam, Puyallup, Quileute, Quinault, Samish, Sauk-Suiattle, Shoalwater Bay, Skokomish, Snoqualmie, Spokane, Squaxin Island, Stillaguamish, Suquamish, Swinomish, Tulalip, Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, Upper Skagit, and Yakima. We give thanks to elders both past and present, our Native and Indigenous colleagues, and the land itself. A couple of housekeeping items before we begin. You'll notice a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. This is a space for you to submit questions to us. If time permits, we'll have about 10 minutes for questions after the panel discussion wraps up. As always, feel free to send any feedback about the webinar quality to us on the chat function or at info@educationvoters.org. And speaking of the chat function, you're welcome to use it to check in and comment on anything you hear. Welcome, Caden, Elias, Miranda, Rosie, and Austin. We'll be asking 4 questions. The first one is, what is the current status of arts education in Washington? Second, what are the benefits of arts education? Third, what are some bright spots that you can share? And finally, what are some arts education options for students that are often utilized? So we'll go ahead and start with the first question. What is the current status of arts education in Washington? And Caden and Elias, this is where you can share your own experiences and also the experiences of the students that you're connected with.
Thank you. Yeah. For me, the last few months, actually, we've just had a multicultural night here at Ridgeline, and people were able to come in from Spokane, Liberty Lake, all around, and able to come learn about different people and who they are, basically. And the last 2 years we've had it here at Ridgeline, it has been very influential, and people not only have left learning more than they already had, but the arts being able to come in here and listen and understand, like, oh, hey, this is who I am. This is who someone else is. So being able to just understand that has been a whole lot for us here at Ridgeline. Yeah.
Here at Meadowdale, our theater program was invited to perform our show at internationals. And we've been working to get our theater program more into our community. And we've been working really hardly with ASB to kind of get our program more funding since we're a little underfunded, and working towards like a better relationship with the 2 programs in our school and getting the word out about our program.
Yeah, and Austin, Miranda, and Rosie, feel free to jump in too. Yeah, what are you seeing in terms of the current status of arts education in Washington?
Yeah, I'll take a bigger zoomed out view just from my perspective here. And I'll start by mentioning that it's been, I think, over 30 years now that federal law has actually defined the arts as essential to a well-rounded education. So this is a conversation that people have had in a lot of different forms for many different years. In Washington state, arts education has a long and interesting history. We have often been cited as a leader in arts education policies across the country. However, we are also seeing that our arts implementation is not always equitable in different pockets around the state, or maybe in different arts disciplines or different age groups. So there's always something to appreciate and something to work on. Currently in Washington State, the law requires that every kinder through eighth grade student in a school district at least 200 or larger must receive instruction in at least one arts discipline. And some school districts have interpreted the language to say in visual and performing arts through every single year of their K-8 experience. The current requirement for grades 9 through 12 is that students must be given the opportunity to take arts every year. And they're required to have at least one arts credit for graduation requirement, with a second arts credit that is listed as required, but is waivable based on like their personal graduation pathways. That original credit is not allowed to be waived in our current law. However, I will also mention just last week, the State Board of Education did continue moving forward with a discussion about proposing legislation to remove the arts graduation requirement, and possibly discussing or possibly proposing removing a PE requirement and maybe a CTE requirement too. Some of that is still in the works, but it's definitely on the table for proposing to remove this graduation requirement in the arts credit at least. So, and that is new as of just last week.
Rosie and Austin, what are you seeing statewide?
Yeah, so specifically for here in Central Washington, I definitely think that art has always been a really important outlet for this community. And specifically, in the schools, I think that like here at Heritage, we do have a lot of art majors that come through, and they're just widely talented students. But I'm also finding that even in my beginner courses for like GUCR's general required classes that students must take to graduate, they're loving it. They're like, I'm really loving this. It's great to get away from the science or the math and just come to an art class and really just like dive deep into it. So I definitely think that art is obviously important in our school systems, but I do think if we could push it more, it would be amazing. Just because I am seeing a lot of these students too that they only have to take maybe one or two art classes in high school, and then so I just don't feel like there is enough exposure to it soon enough, if that makes sense. And I think that the more students have to it, the more they may pursue a art career in the future. I also think implementing just that basic knowledge of what you can do as an artist would help as well. I hear a lot, oh, I love art, I want to do it, but I know I can't make any money in it. And it's like, yes and no. It just depends on, where your career takes you, what you're passionate about, the knowledge that you get into it. And personally, I had a lot of those same thoughts growing up too. So it wasn't until I got into the college level and I was learning about, art in the humanities and graduate school and museums and all these different things that I could do with an art career that really just boosted, my journey into a bunch of different directions. So I definitely think, in Washington State, just the more knowledge and the more access students can have to the arts early on will definitely benefit in the future, and even bring out, more artists, because there's so many talented people here in the Valley that could, easily be showcasing artwork in museums, but they just never knew where art could take them. But yeah, I mean, that's my take on it.
Rosie, there's like so many juicy good points in what you just shared, and my brain is like swimming in the fishbowl of the shared knowledge of the panel. I'm a boy raised in the South. I'm originally from rural Georgia. And I know as a young kid who loved art, the pressure that Rosie was talking about. Shout out to the theater department and like zooming in from your black box. I was totally that kid too. And moving to Seattle and feeling the pressure of tech and industry, really feeling the pressure to be like, everyone around me is doing something different, and I'm here to pursue my art degree? Like, did I make the worst choice ever? But something that we talk about in Speak with Purpose for our students, fourth through eighth grade, is we really talk about the importance of personal narrative and being able to think through why a student has the kinds of passions and interests that they have. And through our curriculum, being able to build a successful argument and share that passion piece with the world. And so when I hear students talking about, oh, I'd love to be an artist, but this and that, I think it really takes a couple of things. I think, making more arts education available means that there have to be more passionate artists who are looking around at the sector as a whole and going like, we're here and we are receiving income and we do file our tax returns. Like we are a substantial part of the culture of the state of Washington. And specifically for the people in our program, I think it takes the support of great parents to say, if this is something that you're passionate about, you should pursue it until you can't anymore. And that, I think, supports arts education as a whole.
Yeah, if I could even jump back onto that, because Rosie and Austin, you have just queued this up perfectly. Washington State actually has the highest percentage of gross domestic product, GDP, in the creative sector in the entire country. We employ almost 200,000 people in the creative sector. Depending on which study you look at, it's somewhere around 9 to 10% of Washington's money that funnels through our state comes from the creative sector. And a lot of that does touch the media, the creative media sector that we have in abundance in Washington State. So I want to give credit to them as well. But even then, how many of our students started as a theater kid, moved into the tech side of theater, realized they love game design, and now they're the ones out there at whichever billion-dollar company designing all the background details and creating the settings and coloring the trees and making sure the shadows and the lighting are just right for these video games that are massively popular and bringing in tons of money. And that's just one potential little pathway that someone might have stumbled into because they originally started because they loved the story, they loved the character, they wanted to be in theater, or maybe they just had a class requirement. They didn't think they'd even like it, but they had to, so they took it. And then all that happened. And now we have somewhere around 10% of our GDP comes from the creative economy in Washington. Also, I will give a little asterisk. The state of California has a much bigger GDP in its total amount, but nobody can compete with California in its sheer size. So this is percentage based. Percentage. We are way ahead of California. Okay. Just want to make sure I throw that out there. So yes, the importance of having those early exposures to the arts is really, really critical. And also why it makes me extra sad when I see that the arts are still, I guess this also goes to the state of the arts right now. They're often the first ones to get cut when there are budget cuts or changes that need to happen in the schools, because I think a lot of people still have this misconception that you can't make a living with the arts, therefore why have it? But I like to joke that most of us don't grow up to be mathematicians. Most of us don't grow. I taught English language arts for many years. Most people don't grow up to be professional writers, but they use what they learned. They use the character development, the transferable skills. They use all of that in the other careers. Students are learning all of those things in the arts too, but for some reason we still have this misunderstanding that if you're not a quote unquote professional artist, that the arts weren't necessary. So anyway, there's a lot of other things in one there.
Yeah. Actually, that tees up our next question. But Caden, go ahead before I do that.
I kind of want to add on to Miranda there a little bit. Like here at Ridgeline, the requirement next year will be leadership classes, and social skill classes are going to be a required GPA for freshmen incoming. And so being able for people to learn how to talk, how to share their idea and stuff. And also next year, you're having a little box outside of leadership classrooms and classroom in general that the comments, concerns, questions for people to actually share their ideas, share their thoughts, and not be scared to go out there and like speak their mind, able to speak like, oh, hey, this is cool. We should add this. This is awesome. Let's add this. So the next 2 years at Ridgeline, because I'm be here the next 2 years, really excited for all that. So yeah.
Adding on to those points as well, I started in Georgia as well, which is kind of crazy. And I moved to Seattle not knowing that I wanted to go into the arts because I didn't know that was an option for me. And I had to take a required theater class, and now I'm like a really big part in our theater program, getting us the connections like with the real world artists and showing our program like that you can make a link. Because a lot of people in our program didn't know you could like go into it professionally, and we're working to get like community theater partners in here and like doing those workshops during our class time, which was in threat of getting cut as well. But we fought to get our class, so now we have our class and we have people coming in and teaching, and it's been really, really successful.
Yeah, that is so wonderful. Yeah, and that does tee up the second question, which is what are the benefits of arts education? What has this done for you personally? I'd love to hear from each one of you how arts education has helped you, but also more broadly. I mean, Miranda, you touched on it a little bit, and Elias and Caden and Austin and actually Rosie, all of you did, but love specifically to hear how it helped you because what you were saying earlier certainly resonated. When I was growing up, my parents told me, whatever you do, don't get into show business. And I grew up in Southern California before moving to Seattle, and that was kind of soul crushing. So I had to deal with that for a little while. And then when I got to Seattle, I decided, you know what? I'm going to do talk radio, and I don't care what my parents told me. And that's what I did for 24 years. So the arts has a very special place in my heart, but I'd love to hear what arts education did for y'all.
And I'm going to jump in right away just because I have a palpable example from our classrooms. So much of traditional education for young students, especially, feels like I sit in a desk, I receive information, and then my job is to regurgitate that information back. And part of the Speak with Purpose curriculum, one of the first things we ask students to do is to identify something socially that they are passionate about changing. For some of our younger students, it's often, I think kitties and puppies should be adopted. And for some of our older students, we're having conversations around ICE and conversations about immigration and conversations about gun safety. Those glimpses of the humans that sit in the desk sometimes to their traditional teachers are like, what? I never knew this about this student. I never had the chance in my curriculum to know that about their passion, about their interest, their concern, their worry. This whole kind of new side of the humanity behind our students opens up when you start to talk about the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts. And arts education for me was really the thing that took the paradigm shift from my job at school is to learn everything that my teacher tells me and to, spill it back out onto the page and started to change the way I interpret and see and feel the things that are happening around me. Whether I'm sketching or tattooing or painting, art education and the skill of art to me is about being able to put yourself into the narrative. Speak with Purpose, we're a public speaking narrative, but whether you're painting sets or singing an aria, you are doing it yourself and you are placing yourself in your own learning, which I think is just amazing.
I want to add on. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, Kaden, you go.
I want to say, with the arts of social skills in a way, I think it has benefited a lot of people here at Ridgeline being able to share their ideas, share what they think, and especially with me too. I've been part of a leadership role the last 4 years now, and going from a quiet, shy kid to doing Zoom meetings with adults, doing Zoom meetings with people I don't even know at all, and going out and talking. And with AWSL that I'm a part of, I'm able to share my mind, share my ideas, and able to not be the shy kid anymore. And I just think people, freshmen, upcoming sophomores, juniors, even seniors, can all learn, just being social, going to real world jobs, and being able to having to go talk one on one with a person, not being afraid. And the part of the arts of social skills is just one of the greatest things that here at Ridgeline we have been able to done better at. And especially with our leadership teacher, Mr. Conrad, he's been one of the most helpful people when it comes to, okay, are you afraid to do this? Okay, now go do it. He pushes you harder, and that's what he's done with me the last 3 years here. And being able to just be myself in a way. Yeah.
And what I was going to say something similar as well is the skills that arts give you to be a real world person. Like working in a theater obviously is a very specific skill set, but it gives you that greater skill set to go work out in the world. And like I've worked with professionals in the theater world in Seattle, like learning those skills, and like it's changed my mindset of like I don't know everything, and like you can learn no matter how old you are. And I think that's a really big thing. And our leadership teacher is also in the theater world. She works up at a community theater in Everett, and like her and I will talk about how important that is as well, and like kind of bringing those ideas into our school through our leadership and bringing them out into our community.
Yeah. Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off what you two just said, it's just people do not realize how much the art benefits other sectors of education. And I think specifically for me, I used to be so shy. I couldn't give a presentation to save my life. I was the one that would start crying and it would just be horrible. And when you do art, you have to have that part of talking about your artwork, explaining it to people, going to galleries, meeting new artists, meeting new people. So it really pushes you out into the world and into, it's like, okay, here's what you want to do. You need to mingle, you need to talk with people. And I think, a lot of people don't understand that that's really developing you as a person. And I feel like I'm social, like I'm so social now. I can talk to whoever I want. I can start conversations. I meet new people. I network, and that's a big skill that I feel like a lot that is missing from a lot of students currently too. Everybody's so on the computers, messaging, that social skill really escapes kind of education, but also just benefits of our education is just expressing that creative outlet of yourself. So many people don't know, again, the social skills, how to tell stories, express themselves. Writing may not be somebody's forte, but I can show you in a picture, I can explain it, in a play, in a video or whatever. So having those skills is so beneficial for our education. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah, Rosie, you said something about currently with people online so much or on the computers, whichever way you said it. And it really reminded me another thing that I think we almost need more of now than ever. So much of our social dynamic these days is very polarized and divisive. And people somehow seem to manage to get past that when you're in arts together. Like I'm thinking back about some of the people that became my dearest lifelong friends from my own school experiences. Some of them, we are still very, very different ideologically, personally, religious, political, whatever it is. But there's something about understanding each other's humanity. There's something about having been through challenges together, about having been through successes, about getting to build each other up. It really humanizes the other person in a way that I think we need more of these days. And on top of that, I think we also see something else you kind of mentioned. A lot of students, maybe they aren't so strong at writing out their ideas, but they can draw them. So maybe, and this is one benefit of learning how to integrate your creative lessons into your other subject areas. If you do it well, you can really bring out higher level thinking skills in your students in ways that they might not have otherwise been able to succeed. Of course, it's also possible to not do it so well, and then it doesn't really do justice to the original discipline or to the art form, but that's a different topic. But I know I've worked with students in different arts programs where behind the scenes, I know that student has a reading disability, that they have social anxiety. I had one dancer who a teacher came to me and was actually quite frustrated because they said, this person will not get up and do their report in this class that I teach them in, but I just saw them out there performing with your dance group in front of 1,000-something students. Make this make sense. And so it was really interesting because we got to talk about how does it make sense? But it does. It really does. When you are surrounded by people that have your back, when you are doing something that day after day challenges you and then reinforces your growth, it feels different than sometimes when you just stand up by yourself to make a presentation. So even though they have a lot of social anxiety, there are aspects of their growth that we could target in the arts that couldn't be targeted in other classes. And the same will be true in other disciplines. But I just think for some students, thinking too about our multilanguage learners, for some students who really struggle to articulate verbally, the opportunity to explore something with their bodies or to listen musically and to practice singing the words over and over and over with everybody else around them, that is so invaluable. And if we remove those opportunities from those students, they might be left with only the classes that make them sit in what might be considered a deficit or a disability. And that is a really sad thing to think about for our kids. So giving them these classes where they have the opportunities to develop a different part of their skill set or a different part of their personality is so incredibly valuable.
Brandon, I want to add on to you a little bit at that. Like, not everyone has the skill of going out and sharing. And I think, like,
Sure.
even the last year here at Ridgeline, our principal has done a good job at getting the people who don't talk and bringing them to meetings with us and like, hey, what's your thought? You don't have to share a lot. Share one thing. You don't have to share what we're doing.
Yep.
You can write it down. Do this, do that. I want to hear what you have.
I love it.
And like with the part of like the ideas we have for next year, the quiet kids, people call the quiet kids, the shy kids, are being able to now share their ideas, what they think will be better for Ridgeline, better for them, better for everyone that's going to be coming in years to come. So I just not even though they don't have the skills a lot of people have, being able to share their ideas is one of the biggest things. When they speak, it's important.
Yeah, absolutely is. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really appreciate that, Caden. That's amazing. Yeah, and some of these programs, it would be great to elevate some of these. So if there are particular bright spots around the state that you've seen, and Caden, you mentioned a couple, and Elias, your theater program sounds amazing that you're in. Also, Austin, if you could unpack Speak with Purpose a little bit more, like how do these passion pieces work? So what exactly is that? I mean, that's clearly a bright spot, and that we can start with.
Yeah, so a passion piece is a 2 to 3 minute self-authored speech that is the goal of all of our in-school programs. We're really lucky at Speak with Purpose to be integrated into the school day and to have teachers who have acknowledged that the power of students speaking about things that are important to them belong in the classroom, not as an after-school subject, not as a club, but as a skill that every student should participate in. And we see a wide range of what that looks like. But really, the goal for every student is to kind of follow a three-tiered approach. First, we want to make sure that students know their passions are important, that the things that they think are important to us and important to the teacher and important to the school, and kind of helping them zoom out to a global scale to think about whether you're in Seattle or Yakima or Spokane, what are the things that affect you as a fourth grader, as an eighth grader, as a high schooler, and how could you imagine the world being differently? So we have robust discussions around social inequity, around global issues, and once students feel fired up about their passion, we move them into a highly structured writing curriculum where, again, outside the boundaries of what a typical English class narrative essay looks like, we're not doing your 575 kind of structure. We're not doing essays that feel like they have to fit and be scanned by an AI generated tool to tell you, yes, you can write a paper or no, you can't write a paper. We help students with sentence stems. We have them verbalize to us their feelings, and then we go, ooh, write that down, put it in your piece, because we want to acknowledge in this process how powerful the written word is, especially when it comes to inequities in our system. That people who had the opportunity to write things down and get those written things signed by other powerful people, all of a sudden that becomes laws. And so writing to us is a huge component before we move into performance skills. And sometimes when we're talking about social anxiety and getting students to do things that they maybe feel outside of their comfort zone, that's where we see students go like, I don't know about that. I like wrote this really powerful, really important thing, and it feels like you're asking me to read my diary in front of the class. Which is totally valid, and our staff have tons of de-escalation techniques. But really, what we remind students is that you wrote this to make an impact, and how more impactful will it be when you stand in front of a room full of people that support you and you share your idea with the world. Now, we've been really lucky in our 12 years of programming in Seattle and Renton schools that some of those students that take to those skills go on to perform those passion pieces at Climate Pledge Arena. We just had a student perform on Black Heritage Unity Night on the ice at first quarter of a Seattle Torrent game. Sports are not my thing. Sorry to the sports fans in the house. But during a hockey game, we get requests all of the time for MLK assemblies where folks want to hear directly from young people about social inequity and how it feels to be a student. So programs are really powerful, but I think what makes this program really impactful is the shift from write a speech about what we tell you to write about into self-author your own identity, perform it in the way that feels representative to you, and take a step into the scary square of sharing it with the world.
Can I just mention how much I love all of the things that you're saying? You're focusing on the writing aspect, the art of writing, but from a broader arts perspective, those are similar processes and similar personal developments that happen in any of our art forms. And in Washington, we tend to talk about the arts as dance, media arts, music, theater, visual arts, but honestly, literary arts definitely a big part of this conversation too. So I wanted to make sure I just specified that, because anyone that's also just listening, maybe they're familiar with Arts Ed Washington and they know we focus primarily on the visual and performing arts. But like I said before, me being an English language arts teacher, I also am really loving all of the things that your program's doing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, what are some other bright spots that you're aware of around the state? And Caden, if that's at other schools or other programs at Ridgeline, or Elias, if there's other schools that have programs that you're aware of, love to hear it. And of course, Rosie and Miranda, love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think a program I'm a part of is called Stay Here and AWSL. Are both programs that are able to speak your mind, speak your ideas, and not be afraid to talk in a way. Like the AWSL is the biggest part. It's called the Association of Washington Student Leaders. We're able to, a group of us come together every month, have a meeting, and to kind of chat what's going on with your schools, how can we help, how can we do better. And a lot of us I'm part of the ambassador group there for AWSL, and so being able to just have my mind be heard and like, okay, how can I help your schools? And so like Central Valley out here, U High, Mount Spokane, Mead, all these schools around us, we all come together and just are able to speak what are doing with their schools. And like the idea with like the comment question, the concern box we're doing next year comes from CV and U High. And so we're kind of stealing an idea and trying to incorporate it here at Ridgeline. And yeah.
We have a very similar thing. Is I'm also a part of AWSL, the Student Voice Network, and ambassador, and working with schools in our area, because our theater arts and like our general just arts are very underfunded, and working on getting people, like students, educating other students is a big thing that we do in our program. And some of our students have been going to programs and schools around our district and educating their technical staff and like, hey, this is a way you can learn this, and like because they don't have the funding to get taught professionally. So that's where we come in. We'll go teach them all these things, and then we have like that relationship with their program. And a lot of community theaters and community like groups around us want to work with high school students and kind of giving those opportunities because they're like, the old people are great, they come volunteer, but like we want the students to come in because this is like so exciting, and like they get to learn all those fun skills, and working with the people who direct those programs to get more students involved is a really big thing.
Yeah, I say we also just had a huge event at the summit in Washington DC a couple months ago, and it was the biggest student-led event that has ever been held there. So it's one of the cool things that we're allowed to be a part of. So yeah.
So what I love about this area is when somebody doesn't see something's available, they make it happen. So I think that's a really great thing about not only Washington State, but this, Central Washington is there's so many different people in this area. Specifically, when they want more creative things to happen, they open their doors. Small businesses open their doors for workshops, for classes, for showcasing artwork. I mentioned in the beginning that I'm a part of a local collective group called Mechelke, and that's one of our goals is to open opportunities, classes, experiences for artists in this area that may not, have the opportunity to go to school or may not, have the money to pay for this class or that class. So not only our group, but there's just so many different businesses and stuff that do these kinds of things in this area. And a lot of it is, a coffee shop open up their doors for wall space, and so we bring in artists to showcase your artwork there, put that on your resume. You've showed your work in the public, or, little workshops at different small businesses. We're gonna do, let's do some flower arrangements. Let's do a drawing class. Let's do this. Let's do that. So that is what I think is really a bright spot about, arts education outside of school is that people, when they crave it, especially here, they make it happen. So I love that. And I think that's almost leading into kind of our next question, but it's definitely something that people, it's like, I want to learn more about drawing. So you know what, let's bring in an artist and let's do a drawing class. Let's do a figure drawing class. Let's have people come in, pay what you can. We'll supply stuff. You bring your own supplies. So it's just, it's such a creative area. And, like I said, if people want it, we'll make it happen some way or another.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of my favorite things to see is the collaborations and the collective momentum that's happening in a lot of places around the state. And whether that is bringing in outside organizations to the school, maybe it's a small school that can't afford a full-time music or art, visual or performing arts teacher. And so they find someone in the community that comes in and at least gives some offerings to the students, that type of collaboration, or if it's cross school collaboration, kind of like Caden and Elias we were talking about, that teachers or students from different schools collaborate and work together and share resources or trade materials so that they can help each other keep the costs down. I think there's a lot of momentum in that type of shared effort. And then I also want to mention two really bright spots for us at the state level. The month of May is traditionally in Washington declared as Arts Education Month. So in the next couple of weeks here, be on the lookout for a written proclamation that will be coming out, written primarily by students from the Washington Youth Arts Leadership Program, which is a program referred to casually as WYAL, from Arts WA, which is the Washington State Arts Commission. That is a different group than us. We're Arts Ed Washington, but Arts WA has a lot of really awesome ed programs that we partner with. And so their YL group facilitates the main ideas of the proclamation, and then the governor jumps in and finesses some things and signs off on it. And so then we're going to be, of course, sharing this with everyone. And we want to encourage you, take that proclamation, have it read at your school board meeting, share it with your principals, share it everywhere you can think of, because it's coming straight from the words of our youth leaders in the arts. And then the second thing is actually in collaboration with ArtsWA, Arts Ed Washington, and Inspire Washington. There is an Arts for All coalition that has been formed in the last couple of years to try and bring together communities from around the state. And we have finally put together a statewide arts education survey. We had almost 300 principals answer our survey. This was the first time since 2009 that there was a statewide survey in arts education. We have not had funding for it. This coalition has been working on it for several years now. For a while, we had some funding, little bit of funding from the state legislature and from the NEA. Finally had enough buildup to send out that survey last spring. And we will be releasing the survey results any week now. So stay tuned, because we finally have not only these really great stories that we all know matter, but we're also about to have some quantitative data to back up what we suspect to be true as well.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Yeah, looking forward to seeing the results of that survey. So for districts and schools that don't have much of an arts program or want to build one, and we touched on this a little bit, but what are some arts education options that can be used for students?
So kind of going back to what I was saying, if you don't see something, make it happen. Build it, build a program, get a group of people together and just do it. I say it all the time. I'm like, just do it. What do you want to do? Okay, let's do it. So, I mean, like specifically, we wanted to see more spaces with diversity, more people of color showcasing their work, having these opportunities, and we didn't see it. So you know what? We got a group of people together, and now we're opening spaces. We're asking small businesses for their wall space. We're seeing who we could gather some donations from so we can pay working artists to come teach classes. So you don't have to be a nonprofit organization. You don't have to be in a school to make these opportunities come to life. You just gotta have a good idea, have a couple good friends, and just make it happen. And it sounds like a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it really, it not only, gives people space, but that's something on your resume too, like, hey, I helped build this program. I helped these things come to life, these opportunities for people. And I think that's, the most powerful thing in the world. My biggest passion is seeing other people succeed and giving other people opportunity. So I think the more that we can do that as not only artists, but students, the greater it is. So that's my takeaway is if you don't see something, if it's not available, just make it happen.
I would throw in, it definitely is a lot of work, but again, there are so many people out there around the state that have already pioneered some of these community partnerships. So especially if you are in an elementary school that has, I mean, by and large, most of our elementary schools offer music. I can actually tell you, according to our survey, approximately 88% of our elementary schools offer music. Nope, 77% of our elementary schools offer music. Only about 44% offer visual art, and then such small numbers offer theater or media arts or dance. I don't even have those memorized yet. So especially in elementary school, if your neighborhood school doesn't offer an art form that you think should be offered, reach out to their PTA or to your classroom teacher and see if there's something that you could bring, and then try to connect with another nearby organization or another school leader that might have been through that partnership process before, because they can help you reduce that workload by kind of walking you through the process, and it's going to be different in every district. And personally, and I'm just going to say my own personal opinion here, this isn't an official stance of Arts Ed Washington. I would really love it if we ended up in a state where every single school not only had certificated teachers on staff teaching the arts, but also had community partnerships. Right now, it often tends to be maybe one or the other, and a lot of our schools have both. I would love it if we could all have both. So just look around in your schools and see which one is maybe lacking, and then from there you might know Do you want to get involved in the advocacy of bringing in more certificated teachers or helping figure out how your school could fund or speak up about staffing requirements, et cetera? Or do you want to get involved on the community partnership side and maybe bringing in other arts opportunities that are not from certificated teachers, but that are still going to have a positive impact on your kids? So look around and see which of those approaches you feel most personally drawn to.
I would say here, like Ridgeline too, like clubs are being created almost every other week sometimes, and especially next year, so many clubs are going to be added. Like diversity club is going to be more bigger next year. Multicultural night is going to be bigger next year with having multiple schools do all in one, and with AWSL and Work to Be Well, and we're able to go out and share ideas and be able to get with the arts of everything. People are coming around from all over Spokane, Liberty Lake, and just being able to just come hang out, able to like, okay, hey, we do this. We want to do this. Like AWSL with James Lehman, he's our leader there. He goes around the middle schools, high schoolers, elementary schools, and just shares leadership stuff, shares how to be who you are, shares everything, and just able to talk to teachers, principals, and being able to like, hey, we should make this club. I'd love to partner with you. Can we do this together? How can we split this together? How can we do this together? And like, yeah, people or students are just making clubs left and right, being able to go to our principal like, hey, can this be done? He's like, let's do it. Or we go vice principal, can we do this? Let's do it. With sports, with everything here, there's so much more being added for the next year. I'm excited to see what's gonna happen now.
Very similar story with us is we have like a club meeting with all of our clubs once a month where we work on ASB and our clubs like working together to get them what they need and hearing their opinions. And our principal normally comes and sits in on those meetings so she can get that information too, and kind of bringing that information up as a whole and being able to do something about it. Because sometimes you can't know everything and it's hard to get that information from everyone. And it's a really great opportunity that we do at our school to get all that information and work with our clubs together.
Yeah, my brain is trying to synthesize everything, and the way that it's appearing in front of me is just recognizing the resources that are already around you. Like, we have two incredible young people on this webinar who have skills to share and would probably be very happy to share those skills with other districts or other programs. And if you can find a little bit of money to support those young people, now we're building the ecosystem back, right? We're demystifying what we said earlier, which is like, you can't make any money. And whatever that amount is, we've now shown young people that there is commerce, that there is opportunity to take the skills that you have and make a business out of them. And whether it's amazing young people in your community, or if it's parents that by day are accountants and electricians and car mechanics who secretly have their like drum set in the garage or their clay studio, or the variety of skills that people have, that because our society historically has not honored those skills, we put them to the back burner. And so if I were from a district with not a lot of funding and not a lot of opportunity, really the first thing I would say is like, where are your parent involvement? And if I could have someone come teach a theater class, that would just be amazing, whether it's one time or a whole school year. Acknowledging and kind of empowering both the young people in your community and the working parents who aren't making a living from the art, but still consider it to be a skill that they can share is a great resource as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I'd like to kind of flip that last question in a way. And Miranda, you inspired this because you said what you'd like to see if you could wave your magic wand. You want to see certificated art teachers and community partnerships in every district. Well, for the rest of you, Caden and Elias and Rosie and Austin, if you could wave your magic wand, when it comes to arts education and there were no budgetary constraints, what would you do? What would you like to see? And I also wanted to give you a heads up that I'll give you an opportunity, each one of you, to add any final words before we wrap up. But yeah, what's your vision?
I think if I had a magic wand, it would definitely be somewhere along the lines of having a meeting with communities and the arts programs at schools and having the leaders of all those and having students come in and having a monthly meeting or something and working towards finding solutions to problems, and like it being kind of like a school board meeting, but like an arts board. Having an arts board. I would love to have an arts board in our schools and in our districts.
I kind of agree with you there, Elias. So like I think it'd be a cool thing here at Ridgeline to have students come in every month to the school board meetings, and they're allowed to share what they think that should be better, and how can ASB or the principal be able to help out with what do they need. Like, oh hey, we want to do this, can we do this bigger? Oh yeah, sure, let's look into it. How can we do that? So I think if I had a magic wand, just being able to let students from all the clubs and be able to allow everyone else to kind of just share their thoughts, share how they want their clubs to be help the next years to come.
If I could wave my magic wand, I would require all of the adults in the room to take one cup of coffee purchase that they intend to make and instead donate that to a local arts group, theater, gallery, chamber orchestra, whatever it is. Take your $8 oat milk latte and put it towards the arts.
That's a really hard question for me, but I think um besides unlimited art supplies for everybody, which would be amazing. I don't know. I think that when a student has the option to really see something like in real life, let's say, I would love to take students to unlimited museums, to different places, around the country to actually see what artists are doing, what they're creating, see different, speeches, different plays, because I just think, especially in this area, those kind of opportunities aren't available. Not a lot of people make a lot of money around here. You can't, these are luxuries. Even, growing up, I didn't know I could go to a museum. I didn't know I could walk into a gallery. Those kinds of things were things that I thought were only for a certain status of people. So I think giving those opportunities to students specifically in this area would change their minds completely, can change their way of thinking, their creativity, because again, those are quote unquote luxuries. Those are things that only a certain group of people are allowed to do, but it's not true. It's for everybody. Everybody should have free access to these things. So if I could take students to Europe, to the Louvre, I would love to do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, we have just a couple of minutes left. And so what I wanted to do is give whoever wants it an opportunity to share any final thoughts. Elias and Caden, I'd like to have you go last, just because I'd love to have the students have the last word. But Austin, Miranda, Rosie, is there anything else you'd like to add before we finish here?
I do just want to mention if there is something that Arts Ed Washington can do to facilitate some of those conversations, especially that Kaden and Elias were talking about, that bringing together of different leaders, community members, advocates, students, teachers, we have programming, all kinds of programming for that type of stuff. So people reach out to us. We would love to support that work. Yeah, it's so important to bring people together, to raise this awareness, and then to give people the tools and the strategies to help make it happen. So thank you so much for bringing all of us here together, because this is a great group with lots of different experiences. And I think it just really does go to show all the different ways that the arts can impact each one of us, and what we all get to contribute back to the arts as well. So thank you for having us here today.
My last word is vote. Vote in local elections, vote in national elections, and put people in positions of power. If we have to adhere to these power systems, we might as well have people who advocate for arts education in them. Thank you.
Piggybacking on what Austin Miranda said, definitely vote, do all those things. But also, Kate and Elias, keep creating, keep doing your thing. Any other young creative watching, keep going, keep doing it. Reach out to local artists, reach out to, different connections because the work you're doing is very important and it matters. So just keep going, keep doing it.
Great. Yeah. Elias and Caden, feel free to share any final thoughts. You've got the floor.
I just want to thank you all guys for letting me come here today and kind of speak my mind and able to just share my thoughts. And yeah, thank you.
I also want to say thank you for letting us get our thoughts. And like, it's so hard to get your thoughts out to higher ups, especially when you're talking about arts. And I really do appreciate like the opportunities I've been given to get those thoughts out there to the people that can actually help us do something.
Great. Well, thank you, Caden. Thank you, Elias. Thank you, Miranda. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Austin. And thanks to all of you for participating and leaving your thoughts and links in the chat. I really appreciate all of that. Our next webinar will be on AI education, and it will take place on Thursday, May 14th. We will spotlight how AI is now being used in the classroom, explore which guardrails must be in place to protect students and families, and discuss the skills that students will need to be ready for the workforce. Registration information will be shared in the follow-up email, which you should receive in about 24 hours, and it's also on our website, educationvoters.org. Just go to events, then lunchtime webinars. Spanish interpretation and captioning in English will be available. Thank you to each of you for joining us today. If you have additional questions or comments, please send them to me at Arik that's A-R-I-K at educationvoters.org. A recording of today's presentation will be available on our website and will be sent to you in that follow-up email. Please share this recording with your friends and colleagues. If you'd like to learn more about League of Education Voters or support our work, please visit our website, educationvoters.org. Thank you again for attending. Each one of us has the right to feel safe and valued. Together, we will fight for a world in which true educational and economic equity exists. We look forward to seeing you at future webinars. Caden, Elias, Austin, Miranda, and Rosie, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for all you do for Washington students, families, and educators. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.